after Katrina, and this is what Katrina looked like. I saw this picture, it was real scary looking. I don't know, it looks like the end of the world coming. And I guess the thing is that Katrina, New Orleans was very accustomed to having hurricanes, most of them not touching us. And if we got water, you got maybe an inch or maybe a little bit more, but you swept it out and you mopped up. And a hurricane was like an upgrade, you know, because if you got water, you got new floors. Everybody knew that. If you were gone 3 days, you got a refrigerator because everything went bad in the refrigerator. So we were accustomed to the water thing. That water thing really didn't bother us. But water coming in and sitting for 3 weeks and rotting everything in sight, that's a whole different story. And that's what Katrina did. And Katrina did exactly what what all of the other hurricanes did. It came towards us and it turned, and usually we would get limited damage. The difference was this thing was as big as the state of Georgia. So although it turned, it was like a dog wagging its tail. It turned, but just the back end, the back winds caught us, and that was enough to create this surge that really took us under. So Mother Nature was still doing what she'd normally do with a storm that hit New Orleans, which is probably why New Orleans is still there, because we sat so low. For some reason, those storms hit a point and they turned over our heads. But this one was so huge that even though it turned in the same spot, it nearly wiped us out. It was surge, and you got to remember, it was the day after the hurricane that we flooded. And people ask, does race matter? And so I just like to show pictures when people ask me that. I always find it strange that in America, and I live in the deep South, somebody would ask me if race matters. It's just something really weird about that question for somebody who's lived, you know, through segregation, through the fight for civil rights, that somebody would ask me that question. This is a picture that when I saw it, I just broke down crying the first time, because doesn't it look like some third world country or something, and people running from the rebels trying to get out of town, except that there are buses there. That was people leaving the city. And so the question is, does race matter? Well, race matters for all of the reasons that you already know, and for no reason at all. Race matters in this country, and it mattered in the predicament that occurred for African Americans, the elderly, poor people, and small children in New Orleans after Katrina. What actually happened, and this is another view of that storm. What actually happened? Well, there were three things that happened. The levees breached, and the Mississippi River Gulf outlet. Have any of you know about that? Mr. Go. The Mississippi River Gulf outlet is really a shortcut for very large ships through the Gulf of Mexico to the Mississippi River, to the port of New Orleans. So we had fought the development of this shortcut for these humongous ships for at least 10 years. They finally got it, and they claimed that we were going to make all of this money, and a total of 3 ships have come through that outlet over the last 3 years that it's been in existence. What came through that outlet that did us in was surge. It took 80 miles off of the path of the surge, and it created a suction because it all came in at one time, and the force of the water was so humongous that it destroyed everything in its path coming through and topped the levees. That was Mr. Go. Through a grassroots effort, Mr. Go is being shut down, by the way. And coastal erosion, of course, is the other thing that has happened to us because of offshore drilling of petrochemical plants. And everybody knows that the petrochemical industry basically owns Louisiana. For certain, it owns most of our politicians, which is why we're in the shape that we're in.